Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Bill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and during this segment, I'm going to talk about health risks for men. Now, there are a number of them out there, but I'm going to give you what I believe the top 10. Now, it's very important for men to understand this because when it comes to we men, many of us don't want to go to the doctor until it's too late. So as men, what we have to do is avoid situations that put us in positions that incur stress, cancer, suicide, to name a few. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to give you what I believe, and this is from healthline.com. Now, if you all were looking for a stream today, I decided I wanted to do regular content because it is March Madness. So I want to see who's going to be in, who's going to be out, because the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 are coming within the next 2 weeks. But I wanted to produce some content for men. And of course, women can also view this information as well, because women, although they live longer, you're not invincible. But when it comes to men, we definitely need to take care of ourselves. I mean, we take care of our cars, but a number of us don't take care of our bodies. And according to Men's Health Network, there's a lack of awareness. There's weak health education and unhealthy work. And of course, when it comes to lifestyles, that's also causing a deterioration of the well-being of American men. And I suggest men, you need to visit your medical provider, which is your doctor or your specialist, so you can see how to reduce the risk of common conditions facing men. And again, I just mentioned a few of them: cancer, depression, health disease, and any type of respiratory diseases. Now, what puts men in certain situations? Well, I can tell you, lack of employment. Could be we're going through some family issues. Many of us are going through some issues of basically coping with life. So what I want to start off with is heart health. Now, when it comes to heart health, for the most part, it does come in many forms, and all of the forms can lead to serious fatal complications if undetected. So the AHA, which is the American Heart Association, basically states that more than 1 in 3 adult men have some form of cardiovascular disease. Now, it's funny because I did go to the VA. That's where I go to the doctor. And when you get your blood pressure checked, you have to ask the nurse practitioner to basically calibrate the machine. because they took my blood pressure 3 times and they said my blood pressure was relatively high, which it wasn't high once they utilized the good old fashioned stethoscope. Now, that being said, is as men, you have to continuously do physical exercise, eat right, sleep right, and you can't put yourself in a position to where your blood pressure is going to be raised. Salt. Diabetes comes from sugar. Now, when we break it down to race, African American men account for 100,000 more cardiovascular diseases, which result in death than Caucasian men. Now, where does that come from? Are there programs for men who are African American to seek help? And when it comes to men's issues, we basically don't talk about them like we talk about women's issues. But it's important that men start talking about men's issues. Because if you break everything down, men tend to die earlier. Now, when we deal with other risks such as strokes, well, when it comes to targeting, basically strokes target more than 3 million men. High blood pressure is common in males under the age of 45, according to the American Heart Association. Routine checkups can help keep that heart breathing. So your doctor should calculate your risk for cardiovascular disease based on several factors. And this is where you need to understand your cholesterol, your bad cholesterol. If you smoke, your smoking habits, and also you need to look at your blood pressure. How much salt are you taking? Now, the recommended amount of salt that I believe you should take in is 2,300 milligrams. But one thing I will tell you, heart health or cardiovascular, heart disease, and strokes, they can lead to other risks such as COPD and other respiratory diseases. Now, many respiratory diseases start with an innocent smoker's cough. However, over time, that can lead to threatening conditions such as lung cancer, COPD, emphysema. Now, all these conditions interfere with your ability to breathe. Now, again, according to the American Lung Association, and I'll put the link under my video when I conclude this video, each year, men are diagnosed and develop lung cancer more than in years past. Now, African American men have a higher risk of dying from the disease compared to other racial and ethnic groups. Now, while exposure to occupational hazards like asbestos increases your risk, smoking remains the leading cause of lung cancer. So, if you've smoked for more than 30 years, a low dose CT scan may be prudent to screen for lung cancer. Now, if you've also had kidney stones, get a CT scan as well and get a stool sample to see if there's blood in your stools. I've had all of that. But again, you must check your testosterone level. Now, they have at-home tests. I don't know how good they are. But one of the areas that we men find ourselves in trouble is when we deal with alcohol. Because according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, men face higher rates of alcohol-related deaths and hospitalizations than women do. Now, why? Because men binge drink twice as much as women. They are also prone to aggression and sexual assault against women. Also, Alcohol consumption increases your risk for cancer of the mouth, throat, liver, esophagus, and of course, colon. Now, alcohol also interferes with testicular or testicular function and hormone production. Now, this can result in impotence and infertility issues. Again, when we deal with alcohol consumption, you must understand that you're going to have a risk of mouth, throat, esophagus, liver, and colon. And alcohol basically can interfere with testicular function and hormone protection, which is going to result in impotence and infertility. Now, low T is another one. Now, again, all this information is coming from the CDC. And when it comes to the CDC, men are likely more than women to commit suicide. They're also more likely to have been drinking prior to doing so. Connecting all the dots, depression is involved with the suicide. So researchers at NIMH, which is the National Institute of Mental Health, estimates that at least 6 million men suffer from depressive disorders, including suicidal thoughts annually. Now, there are ways you can combat depression. And here's a few. And I do it myself: getting regular exercise, even just going for routine walks around your neighborhood. Now, you should get at least 30 minutes of active exercise a day. Journaling or writing down your thoughts. Communicating openly with friends and family and seeking professional help. When it comes to suicide prevention, you have to be a manager of your own life. Now, I will say, if you think someone is at immediate risk of hurting another person or themselves, you know what to do: call 911. Stay with the person till help arrives. Now, something that will go along with suicide: make sure the person who wants to commit suicide doesn't have any weapons like guns, knives, or medications, or any other items that's going to harm him. Listen, but don't judge. Now, something else that's a risk to men: unintentional injuries and accidents. Now, this comes from working in hazardous positions. You could be working in a factory, you could be working outside in construction. Now, the CDC lists unintentional injury as a leading cause of death. Now, this happened way back in 2006. It's probably higher now. Some other things that go along with unintentional injuries. I'm going to say that again: unintentional injuries and accidents. Well, one thing that men do when it comes to the 4th of July, and I've seen it myself, some men might have some fingers missing because they were playing with fireworks, cherry bombs. You also have brain injuries that come from a trauma, drowning. Also, motor vehicle death rates for male drivers and passengers ages 15 and 19 were almost twice that of females. Now, this, again, I don't like quoting numbers, but I'm using the year 2006 as a benchmark because you do have a number of male drivers out there. They want to drag race. They love speed, particularly in that age bracket. I know I had an individual when I was going to high school. He was skipping school. He ended up dying in an automobile accident at the age of 15 back in 1980. Now, again, when it comes to work, male workers incurred about 92% of the 5,524 total reported fatal occupational injuries. Now, I work in the construction field as I inspect construction projects. And I will always tell you, no matter where you are, if you're in a workplace, if you're out in the field, no matter what you're doing, if you're in a restaurant, safety is everybody's responsibility. So you must practice safety first. Now, again, I'm just giving you an overview. The next risk I want to talk about is liver disease, because when it comes to your liver is about the size of a football. And what your liver does, it helps you digest food and absorb nutrients. Now, it also rids your body of toxic substances. Now, when it comes to liver disease, the conditions that incur with liver disease are, of course, you can get hepatitis, autoimmune or genetic liver diseases, bile duct cancer, liver cancer. If you drink a lot of alcohol, like I had an Uncle Donald that had cirrhosis of the liver, which that's the first one up there, cirrhosis. Well, too much alcohol can give you cirrhosis of the liver or alcoholic liver disease. Now, I will say this, alcohol and tobacco use increases your chance of developing liver diseases. Now, what about diabetes? Here's the big one. And this is one that is very important, particularly African-American men. Because diabetes, if left untreated, can lead to nerve and, of course, kidney damage, heart disease, and strokes, and even vision problems or blindness. I had a coworker named Sharon that I worked with. She actually developed diabetes and became blind. She was too obstinate or stubborn to go see a doctor. And when you fail to get yourself checked, you end up in a position that could either cost you your life or take something that's part of you, like your sight, away. But when it comes to men with diabetes face a risk of lower testosterone levels. I call it sexual impotence or low T. Now, this can also lead to increased depression or anxiety. Now, of course, the American Diabetes Association celebrates today's modern man as someone who is more aware of his blood sugar health. Now, the ADA recommends that men get out, get active, and get informed. Again, men, we don't have a lot of government programs that can help us out, but we still need to be informed because we only live once. And if you want to enjoy your life very peacefully, you need to understand the health risk. So basically, when it comes to controlling your diabetes, two things you need to do. Eat healthy. That means cut down on bad carbs and exercise. Now, you also have to look at family history of diabetes. And if you have a family history, you need to see your doctor and have periodic screenings for diabetes. And of course, in African Americans, diabetes is one of the big kahunas that does kill us. You look at Barry White, stroke. I believe Luther Vandross had a stroke. Drug use, Rick James. Now, these are Black men who are all under 60 years old. That is relatively young. Now, what about influenza and pneumonia? Well, they're basically two leading health risks for men as well, because what it is, men who have comprised immune systems due to COPD, diabetes, congestive heart failure, sickle cell anemia, and of course, AIDS or cancer are more susceptible to these illnesses. So more than about 25% of men are likely to die from these diseases than women are. So according to the American Lung Association, to prevent influenza and pneumonia, the American Lung Association recommends vaccination. Now, when it comes to skin cancer, a number of individuals don't take this very seriously. Well, according to the Skin Cancer Foundation, 2/3 of melanoma deaths in 2013 were men. This is more than twice the rate of women. So 60% of all melanoma deaths were white men over the age of 50. So you can help protect against skin cancer. Now, again, you can help protect yourself from skin cancer by wearing long sleeves and pants. I'll repeat, you don't want to get skin cancer. Protect yourself. Wear long sleeves and pants, hats with wide brims, sunglasses, and of course, SF15 sunscreen when outdoors. You can also lower your risk of skin cancer by avoiding exposure to UV. UV is ultraviolet light sources such as tanning beds or sun lamps. Now, that's something generally a number of Caucasian women use. They'll go to tanning spas. Very dangerous. Now, something to say to men that is pretty high. And of course, this is men who have also been incarcerated, HIV and AIDS. And the problem that I see with a number of men, particularly the African American community, is, there was this statistic going around that stated that Black women had the highest AIDS rates. Well, let's really step back a moment and think about why it happened. Well, a number of these men who were incarcerated were the ones that had HIV and AIDS, and they didn't tell a number of African American women, and they caught it. And this is why, when it comes to HIV, a number of men don't realize they have it. Well, when it comes to the initial symptoms, what you're going to have is basically a cold or a flu. Now, men do account for 76% of people infected with HIV. Now, that's according to the CDC. Now, again, I don't like giving numbers out because numbers do change. However, one is too much. But when it comes to the CDC, it goes on to state that men who have sex with men account for most new and existing HIV infections. African American men have the highest rate of new HIV infections amongst all men. Now, again, I will say this. When it comes to all of these risks, now there are more risks out there, but I'm just giving you my observation on the important ones that you hear about, because when it comes to men's health, it's not mentioned as much as women's health is. So I will tell men, you got to become very proactive. You have to address your health. Now, it's going to be scary. You're going to hear information that you may want to block out. But if you avoid it, it could be too late. Now, again, there's medication, there's support groups, but you have to read the information for yourself. Find out who your specialist is. Now, since I'm a veteran, I go to the VA. And the older you get, these risks are going to increase. Strokes, chance for cancer. Now, there's one that I did not put in there, and I'm talking about men. Obesity. A number of men have the beer belly. And this is where drinking alcohol, because alcohol has a lot of hops, which comes from grains, and there are carbohydrates associated with beer. Alcohol has a lot of sugar in it. You have to look at some of the foods that we are eating. However, you can eat what you want, but you have to eat in moderation. Many of us, when we cook, and I know the food is good, especially when you cook some Southern cuisine. We like to cook with butter. We like to cook with grease. Well, you can do that. But I always tell anybody this, man or woman. I know this video is about men's health. You have to do some exercise. Now, I do not suggest anyone sit down after they eat. Wait 10 to 15 minutes. This is why I get up and I go wash the dishes, walk around. Something else I forgot to tell you. Check your kidneys out. Kidney stones. Now, I had a scare roughly a month ago. That's when I went to the VA. I had a pain. Now, I do tell you to exercise. Sometimes you can exercise too much and pull a muscle. Now, the clinic thought I had a kidney stone. That's why I went to have a CT scan or a CAT scan. Well, thank goodness I didn't. Also, when it comes to your colon, I also took a stool sample, sent it to the lab at the VA, came back. I didn't have blood in my stools. Again, the older you get, you need to get yourself checked out because the risks are going to incur. And you may have more than one risk. Now, I'm not saying you have to have the perfect body. However, you have to manage your lifestyle. Now, we always talk about losing weight and diets. Well, in order for a diet to work, there's got to be a culmination of a few items that go with that diet. Eating right, getting the right exercise, sleeping, and keeping your stress down. And also, medications. And I'm going to get into a video later on about how somebody can be over medicated because some of these television commercials that you see when it comes to medication, there are a lot of side effects to medication. Now, again, medication, for the most part, it can relieve the symptoms, but these pharmaceuticals are making a lot of money. So you're going to be asked to refill your medication every 90 days. Now, again, if you're taking some latrinapril or some metformin for blood pressure and diabetes, I started taking that now. The funny thing about it is the VA gave me some medicine to take. Now, I haven't taken the blood pressure medicine yet because once you start it, you can't stop it. So when I go into the doctor, I want to see what my blood pressure really is because when it comes to a lot of this equipment, because everybody is utilizing computers. Again, everybody is utilizing computers. And sometimes the equipment is not calibrated. And what I mean by calibrated, you want to make sure that your equipment is going to give you an accurate reading. Let me give you information about calibration. Okay, in cooking, when I calibrate my thermometer, there are two ways I calibrate my thermometer. I could either put my thermometer in hot boiling water to where it's reading 212 degrees Fahrenheit, or put my thermometer in ice to where it's reading 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if it isn't, when you calibrate your thermometer for cooking, you want to make sure that you turn your thermometer to the temperature it's supposed to be when your liquid is ice or when your liquid is boiling. Therefore, you have accuracy. Well, again, getting checkups for your health, it's not on a doctor, it's on you. So you have to be the one to read about what's going on with your body. Now, of course, as men, a lot of us can be hard-headed at times. Well, you only live one life. And that one life can be very miserable if you start picking up a lot of risks. So I'm advising you, the older you get, take it seriously. Go and get checked out. And if you can help it, stay away from smoking, stay away from alcohol, stay away from chewing tobacco. Now I work in a construction field and I see a number of guys chewing some Skoal or some Copenhagen, spitting their dip in the bottles. Well, that's a nasty habit. You get lip cancer. Smoking cigars can give you cancer as well. Because what is a cigar? Cigar is nothing but a big leaf of tobacco. But in the end, as men, we got to take care of our health. And we can't depend on the government to give us programs like it does for women. And we men have to talk about health amongst each other. Because if you look at it, let's talk about the NFL season. Well, you see a number of NFL players wearing pink for breast cancer, but you don't see them wearing purple for prostate cancer. And when it comes to the Western society, particularly here in the United States, men's health isn't important at all because, again, with everything going on here, society here in America believes that men are disposable because men have, besides dying of different health risks, they died in war. Many of them have died, again, from working hazardous jobs. They died from utilizing fireworks, again, suicide, depression. A number of them have had family issues at work. They may have been fired or laid off, so they don't have that economic power that they did. Child support issues. You're dealing with a person at home who's not respecting you. All that can lead into depression, and then you're going to get impulsive and you might end up in jail. Incarceration issues. It's not just Black men, it's men across the board, although a number of Black men are incarcerated at a population of 40%. Now, is everything their fault? No. But I know when a number of men were going to prison, particularly in Philadelphia and Tuskegee, they were used as test objects. Well, if you don't want to end up in that position, men, regardless of race, take care of your health. You only live one time. So make the best of your life while you are here. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. Now, if you're looking for some educational material, check out the QCIS channel, which stands for Quality Control Inspection Services, formerly the Mind of STEM channel. The slogan is still the same. You get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, if you cannot find the 411 Talk Zone radio show or the QCIS channel on YouTube, you can check both of those channels out. The 411 Talk Zone radio show and the QCIS channel on Twitter. And to go further, for the QCIS channel, on that channel, I go out and I do field scopes. I just put up a video from Fountain City, Indiana, where I did a field scope for an overlay project. Check that video out. Since it's more of a professional type channel, I post that content on LinkedIn as well. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna leave you with this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises on the east and sets in the west. And I will be live streaming again. But this Sunday, since March Madness is on, I wanted to leave you with some content, important content. Of course, I talked about men, but women ought to look at this content as well, because just because you live longer, ladies, the same thing does happen to you. In fact, ladies out there end up in homes, and some of you don't even have family to come and visit you. But I'm also going to say this as well. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious day. God bless you. I'm out.